Hello and welcome to the Siwi Sofa, where we sit down with some of the most interesting participants at this year's World Water Week to learn more about the array of water-related issues being discussed this week in Stockholm. My name is Eric Paglia, host of the Siwi Sofa. As a matter of fact, a very crowded Siwi Sofa we have for this session called Manos agua, which is an IWM project that is being implemented from 2013 to 2018 to generate alternatives to face water and climate challenges, which also have an impact on sustainability and welfare in the coffee sector in Colombia. So I'd like to welcome my guests here today. We have Carlo Galli, Technical Director of Water Resources at Nestlé. We have Jerome Perez, Head of Sustainability at Nestlé Nespresso. We have Andrea Mordo, Trading and Sustainability Coordinator for the Colombian Coffee Growers Federation. We have Laura Miguel Ayala, Impact Assessment Researcher at the Wageningen Environmental Research, and also Angel Di Miguel, Water Management Researcher also at Wageningen. So welcome you all to the Siwi Sofa. Thank you for joining us here today. Perhaps we could start with you, Laura. Can you please tell us about the Manos agua project?
Yes, well, the project is actually based on the relationship between water and coffee. Coffee is the main agricultural product in Colombia. It's actually the basis of the rural economy, especially in the Andean region. But it's also intrinsically linked to water, both for crop growing and coffee processing, which makes the coffee farmers one of the most important water users in these areas. Now, climate change is also affecting coffee production and farm productivity as a whole negatively and intensively. There's more uncertainty about the availability of water in certain areas, which is reflected in an imbalance of water resources. So water shortage or excess of rainfall can lead to flooding, landslides, reduction of yields, pests, which obviously affects coffee production negatively. Also increases poverty and vulnerability of these communities. So what we are trying to do with intelligent water management, which as you said is Manos al agua in Spanish, like hands on water, is establishing the basic social, environmental and economic conditions for the reduction of poverty and the sustainable development of these communities and the coffee sector as a whole. And we do this, we work with 11,000 farmers along 5 departments in the Andean region, and in each department we've selected 5 catchments. We call them micro catchments. So all in all we have 25 micro catchments where we implement a wide set of activities.
I want to add something that is important, that are the pillars of the project. The first pillar is the water is everybody's business. We work not only with private companies, but as well we work with the academic sector, Wageningen University Research Center, Cafe, and with public institutions. So we started with 7 stakeholders, but nowadays we are 15. The second pillar is water for sustainable coffee farming. And as Laura mentioned, we work with 11,000 farmers to the adoption and the multi-training learning. And the third pillar is the strategic water ecosystem, where not only these 11,000 coffee growers are benefited, but as well the 1,000 other farmers are benefited, because we are doing bioengineering, we are doing crop renovation, and we're working with the knowledge that big companies have. And the fourth pillar is decision making, where we have 25 climate stations around Colombia, and we use this to collect data and later on create the early warnings regarding climate change.
Hey, Jerome, can you please tell us about the background and the motivation behind Manos al agua?
Quality and sustainability are interlinked, they are coming together. And back in 2003 already, Nespresso started to implement its AAA Sustainable Quality Program, which is the program which is guaranteeing the supply of the highest quality coffee in a sustainable way for the company, which is a program which is benefiting today to around 70,000 farmers all around the world. And between 2008 and 2014, over 5 years, already the Nespresso partnered with the Federación Nacional de Cafeteros de Colombia, the Colombian government also, in a more comprehensive program, investing 50 million euros, implementing water infrastructure in coffee farm, more than 15,000 infrastructure were implemented. Planting varieties resistant to climate change. Over 100 million trees were planted at that time, and more than 10,000 farmers were trained regarding climate change. But all these programs were at that time acting at farm level. And we knew, and already we were integrating in the Nespresso strategy, that we had to work at landscape level to address the challenge of water stewardship and climate change. Only action at collective level and landscape level were efficient. So we had a discussion, and FNC proposed us to have a broader landscape level ambition. And then in partnership with the Dutch government, we came to this, and Nestlé also, we came to this program over 5 years at a more, let's say, landscape level.
Yeah, I want to add on what you said, Jerome, on the fact that from a corporate perspective at Nestlé, this project is one lighthouse for water stewardship collective action, meaning that you cannot solve the water challenge alone. You need to do it in a collective action mode. So Jerome mentioned the fact that not only Nespresso, from a business point of view, participated at Nestlé, also Nescafé plan contributed financially to the program. And the value of the public-private partnership is also coming from the fact that you can attract more funds from donors, for example, the Dutch agency, so you can do more. And finally, another comment is working with a wide set of stakeholders, including academia, research institutes like VUR or Senecafé. We have the chance to implement a program that is a very good combination between scientific research, action on the ground, and raising awareness on the issue around water.
And Andrea, perhaps you can explain to us what the IWM strategy is.
Well, Manos agua was designed to impact a region instead of small farmers. So as Jerome mentioned, we have a landscape approach with the natural management, the soil and water protection, and the working with the communities were like key elements of the project. In fact, we work directly with farmers in the watershed level, and the main actions are located within 100 and 200 meters away from the river. Another key point of the strategy was create a multidisciplinary team. So in that sense, our workers on field, call it extension service, and known as with a yellow T-shirt, help us to the adoption of the good practices in the farmers. They are from different backgrounds. So we have workers in social service, we have agronomists, and we have, of course, water experts.
Very interesting. Angel, as I mentioned before, the project's main focus is water. So why is water so essential for the coffee sector?
Yeah, as you know, coffee crop in Colombia is a rain-fed crop, but does not mean that we don't need water. We need water in the whole chain of the coffee, from seed to production. So water is essential for us. Also, water is essential to keep the welfare of farmers, coffee families, and also the environmental related. As Jerome said, we are working in a landscape using the microbasin as a landscape unit. So for us, the water is the cohesion element to keep all the people working together. In Manos agua, we identify several water-related issues. For example, water availability. The phenomena of El Niño and La Niña exacerbated during the last year for the climate change is creating very intensive rainfalls, but also is creating a lack of water, depends on the year. So water shortage and water excess is happening now, creating a reduction of yields, creating also a more important of the pests and disease. So that one also affecting, for example, the coffee beans. This is something that has to be solved. Water variability is also very important for the resilience of the farmers. And of course, the water quality. Water quality is a key issue for us, both upstream and downstream. Upstream because we need good quality for processing the coffee, but downstream because the potential pollution of the activity of coffee processing. And of course, we need also to guarantee the access to safe water and enough water to the coffee families that are living in the field.
If you take an example, as a company like Nespresso, the company needs to buy is mainly buying washed Arabica coffee and high quality Arabica coffee, and to get this high quality, which is essential to the in a way to the finished product that they are promising to consumers, you need high quality water. The water need to be of good quality. And this also for two reasons. The first one is related to the quality of the product, but also to the quality of life of the farmers. So this is why at the end, water management and high quality water is essential in the coffee sector.
Okay, I mean, Angel, considering the significant use of water in the coffee production, how is IWM able to reduce the amount of water used in this process?
Of course, coffee sector in Colombia, but also worldwide, is a great water use. Just if we look at the figures of the water footprint of coffee, for example, we can see that we need around 50,000 liters of water per kilo of dry bean. In Colombia, it's around 4,000 liters, but it's quite a lot. But if we look at that figure carefully, we can realize that around 90-95% of this water is coming from rainfall. It's considered as rainwater with very low environmental implication. It's this other 5% of the water footprint that has to worry us. But in case of Colombia, for example, the blue water footprint is not so important since most of the crop is rain-fed. Most of the water used is for the processing. So we take the water, but the water is discharging again into the environment. The problem is the transformation of quality of this water. And this is where we have to put more attention, because this 5-10% of water footprint could be related with gray water footprint. And there we can do a lot. For example, we can move from a gray water footprint for around 6,000 liters per kilo using a conventional technology of processing and without wastewater treatment to less than 400 liters per kilo with an ecological processing with wastewater treatment. And this is what we are working on. So Manos al agua is implementing at field level some water saving devices, around 700 in the last year and around 650 wastewater units, to reduce this water footprint blue, but also to reduce the gray water footprint. But Manos al agua is much more. We are trying to develop new wastewater treatment technologies and also to adapt the current technologies, trying to do it cheaper, more easy to use, robust, and especially trying to adapt to the Colombian context that could be different to other contexts in the world. We are trying also to use nature-based solutions as green filters to treat this water. And of course, we are trying to push the reuse of the byproducts as, for example, fertilizer. But in Manos al agua, we are not only considering the wastewater treatment, we are also working, for example, in the water quality. We want to know what is the real impact of the coffee effluents in the environment. To do that, we are carrying out water quality assessment in 25 microbasins, studying variables, biological, physical-chemical, and landscape variable. But also we want to know with that what are the real effects of our implementation. And just to finish, in the last year, in our last sampling campaign, we saw that 80% of our microbasin are showing real improvement at water quality level.
And Carlo, in what ways is Manos al agua innovative, and how is it a new way of working?
Well, thinking about innovation and talking about the solutions that Angel was trying to display, obviously innovation can go through technology. But what I think is very important and really the added value of this project is the innovation in terms of mindset change. Because at the end of the day, we're talking about collective action, as I mentioned before. So this is really understanding that water is a shared resource. And as we hear very much here in Stockholm, it's also a shared responsibility. So what does it mean? It means that you have to work with others, and this can happen, and it's happening at two different levels. At the macro level, we have big organizations, public sector, civil society, business, getting together to make the project possible. But then at the end of the day is also having farmers, smallholder farmers, in the cuenca, in the catchment, to work together, because this is also their shared water challenge.
Very good. And Laura, you mentioned before that Manos agua is much more than an implementation project. It's also has an important social dimension to it. Could you please explain that to us?
Yeah, we actually put a lot of emphasis in the social component of the project, which is very much directed at raising awareness of the importance of water and what the effects are of good and bad agricultural practices downstream. As Carlo just said, we involve farmers at the watershed level, and we try to engage with them by providing them with education, training, development of new skills. We promote the participation of women. We support existing groups or newly created groups. And actually, this is one of the most successful ways to engage with the community, to empower the community, is the creation of the Manos al Agua groups. These are regional groups, community groups of people who gather and carry out together actions for the conservation of their watershed, of their territory. So today we have 29 groups of more than 500 members in total. And some of the actions these groups carry out are, for example, voluntary tree planting and forest management activities, which go on top of the reforestation activities that the project is bringing in. So it comes out of their own incentive. Garbage collection to clean up the watersheds, even handicraft creation out of recycled waste. At the moment, we are carrying out a social impact assessment in Wageningen together with the Federation, which is already yielding very interesting results. It's giving evidence of the sense of appropriation that these communities have, commitment, creativity, and even willingness to find other ways to collaborate among themselves.
And Jerome and Carlo, do you see IWM as an important component of coffee farming in the long term?
Yes, I think this project is critical for the long term, because regarding the challenges we have to face with when it's about water, stewardship, water management, or also climate change, because all of this is interconnected, the collective approach is the only way. It's about engaging all the stakeholders in a way concerned by these challenges. And what is also important in this kind of project is to find the right platform to bring the governance and the financing to bring the solutions that are needed today. We are in a critical period with natural capital valuation today. We need really to integrate the value of nature in the way we are doing business. And this kind of platform can really bring the knowledge and the instrument to progress on this topic. And payment for environmental services also, which is connected to that, can benefit from this kind of approach. And now the next step for the platform is really to be sure that it will be able to find the right governance and financing to continue and to be sustainable and to be sustained.
Yeah, I can only echo what you said, Jerome. So the fact that coffee sustainability is linked with water sustainability is a fact. That the project is building the framework to make coffee sustainable in this 25 river basin. This is what we are doing. And as you mentioned, Jerome, the very important point and is a key objective of this project is also to make sure that when the project is over, it has to be maintained. So we need to find the formal and informal mechanisms to make sure that the best practice that we have put in place are maintained over time. Because this is about sustainability.
The Sustainable Development Goals also today are a very important framework, and the Sustainable Development Goal number 6 related to water is important, and this kind of platform benefit and bring value to addressing this kind of challenge.
I find this to be a very fascinating partnership, and also you mentioned the future. What do you plan on bringing in additional partners as this project winds down to its conclusion, or where do you see things going after 2018?
Well, I can say something. I think the idea we had already was to bring in this prototype example of collective action to scale up within the country and also outside the country as an example, and not only talking about coffee. It may be probably I have Andrea here, you can speak about the Colombian context, but we may be having other partners coming in for other crops or for other interests.
I want to add that it's something that it's important is that we are creating 16 reports that at the end we wanted to share as a guidelines with not only with regions in Colombia, because we think the model would work in other countries. So big companies like Nespresso and Nestlé can use Manos al agua to replicate it in other areas.
And in terms of socially, I mean, you come from very different backgrounds, from the corporate representatives to more the scientific end, research, and representing coffee growers. How has it worked together as a team, coming from such different backgrounds and coming together on one project like this?
Well, if you want, I can explain a bit how the management of Manos al agua works. We have 3 committees: the steering committee, the technical scientific committee, and the communication committee. We have different meetings around the year, and yearly the technical scientific committee goes to Colombia and see and visit the different regions. So, for example, in 2 weeks we're gonna be in Colombia and we'll visit Caldas. And I don't know if you wanted to add something, Angel, regarding the.
Just from the scientific point of view, I can say that it's amazing for us because sometimes we are out of the business. With this project, with this project you can interact more with the business, but also with a very big organization as Federación Nacional de Cafeteros. So for us, it's really nice, and I think it's very useful to integrate the knowledge from the different sectors.
One probably of the important challenge we have is also to find a way to integrate consumers also in what is happening, because consumers are critical in a way in establishing a business case for sustainability, and in that way this kind of approach is essential, and it's really important to get the recognition also of consumers in what is happening to make it a real business case which is sustainable.
How do you do that? I mean, do you label your coffee that it's water friendly, or how do you communicate it to consumers so they know what they're actually buying is produced in such a way?
It's still relatively complex to communicate sustainability to consumers. For the moment, we still have labels, for example, and partnership with NGO, but it's true that communicating technical projects like this one that are critical but difficult to explain, there is no simple way to bring the information to consumers.
Okay. Well, I'd like to thank you all for joining us here at the Siwi Sofa. I think it's been a really fascinating discussion and a really interesting project. I really wish you the best in the long-term implementation of Manos al agua.
Thank you so much.
And thank you for tuning into the Siwi Sofa. Stay tuned for more episodes throughout the World Water Week.